Welcome to Red Light, Green Light, the podcast where you'll hear from industry leaders in science, technology, and innovation about the power of strategic storytelling. With decades of experience, our guests will share their own insights and real-world stories to help you avoid red light barriers and ignite green light solutions. From the Zoom room to the boardroom. In each episode, we'll corkscrew downward into the guests' personal experiences of challenge and success, highlighting strategies that turn complex ideas into clear, compelling storylines for stakeholders. Here is where expert minds share stories that shape the future. What's more, you'll walk away with tips to try immediately to drive the vision of innovation with your team. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Red Light, Green Light, the podcast where we bring in special guests who are leaders in science, technology, or innovation of some sort to share their wisdom with you, our listeners. Today, I'm really excited to have a wonderful guest, Susie Heneman, with us today. Susie is, and I'm going to get it right, the Director of Loan Administration at the Credit Union Colorado. And so I want to welcome you, Susie. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's so good to be with you and hear a little bit about your areas of expertise. Tell our listeners a little bit about you and your journey to where you are today in your career.
Sure. I started my financial career over 25 years ago. Okay. My very first job was actually a teller at First Bank in Breckenridge. So nice. I started my career a long time ago and have been in the industry for a while. What I really liked about being at First Bank in Breckenridge was that interaction with the customers and the members, helping them with their financial goals and offering them different products and services they didn't know about, and really just kind of guiding them and making sure they're getting all their needs met. So that was where my passion started. And I really like the setup of the bank where you have different opportunities. You're not stuck in the same position. There's different career paths. So you can go into lending, you can go into collections, you can go into training, IT, auditing. There's just so many different paths. So if you feel stagnant, you can always kind of pivot and try a different area in the organization. So I like that opportunity. So that really kind of was different than other jobs that I had prior. Yeah. I got into the credit union space in 2002. And I started actually in a branch, and I just was a financial service representative. Worked my way up to a branch manager. Okay. Decided I wanted to get into lending. And so then I made the switch into lending in 2010. Okay. I've been in lending ever since then, and doing what I love.
Yeah. So you've had a chance to take that opportunity and switch up in the career path. Well, for our listeners who may not know the difference, can you give us a simplified definition or differential of bank versus credit union? What's the difference?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is credit unions are member owned. So our members own us. We don't have shareholders. So we do everything for our members. If we're making profits, we give that back to members with lower interest rates and higher savings yields.
Okay. And so do you find that a certain type of customer tends to lean toward the credit union space versus the bank? And can you describe that?
I think a lot of people that are rate sensitive really want to come to credit unions because traditionally we've always had lower credit rates than interest rates than banks. So that's kind of where we've gotten most of our membership is coming from auto loans, and that's their introduction to us. And then we want to have a further, deeper relationship. So then we want them to have our checking products and to see everything else we can offer them and how we can do it in more localized communities. Okay. Personal connection where banks sometimes don't always offer that.
Right. And so I'm sure it feels like a little more like a family sort of culture, right? When you're working at a credit union, would you say that's true?
Yes, it's working here. It's our family. It's a culture. And we also like to think our members are part of that culture and our family as well, too. We've got great member success stories we always share. We know our members by name. We want to have them be successful and we want to help guide them get to all
of that. I love that. That's awesome. So in your role, Susie, let's talk a little about what kind of presentations you are used to giving internally, maybe externally, maybe on your team. You know, this podcast is a lot about how to help each person who's listening figure out a little better path for their audience, right? To get them from that, looking at them like with that red light of risk to getting that audience member to say, yes, I want to do what you're saying in this presentation. I want to vote for that, agree to that, give you buy-in for that. Where are you looking for buy-in or agreement internally for your presentations? Can you share a couple of examples?
In my position, I do a presentation to our senior management once a year. Just kind of give them an update of my departments and what we're doing, kind of our roadmap, what's on the horizon for us, what's our strategic plan, what's our technology plan, what have we done this year that was well, what's our focus for next year. So I share that once a year and answer a variety of questions and get them on board of the direction we're going. I've also been able to present rate changes in the past on our ALCO committee. So that's trying to make changes with loan products, either get the buy-in to change the rates to raise or lower them. So having to persuade senior management again to see if they're in agreement and making sure you've done your research and you can justify why you want to make some of these moves.
Okay, well, let's sit there for a second, because if you're presenting about a rate change, for example, and your audience is looking at you while you're on that stage, if you will, what are some things that might be happening in their heads around like the risk involved in what you're asking them to do? Where's that red light in the audience's mind?
I think they just want to look to make sure that we don't want to give away the rate. We want to make sure we're priced accordingly. We're not way outside the market. We're not underpriced or overpriced. We want to be in that sweet spot. If we're in kind of a way, if we're trying to get loans and we want to have more loans and increase our loan volume and growth, then we want to kind of really look at that a little more aggressively. Are we priced correctly to draw in more loans? If we're kind of in a place where we want to slow down loan growth, then we want to kind of look at it. We want to present like, let's have our prices be a little higher right now.
Okay.
Because we don't want the loan growth. So we kind of have to manage to see where we're at with our loan to share. We've got to see what we're trying to do as an organization to make sure that we all those needs.
Okay, great. So I'm imagining you sitting at your desk working on a presentation where you need to get somebody to say yes to the loan rate change or understand it better. And you're sitting at your desk, you're in your draft of your PowerPoint slides, and you're trying to figure out what should you share that will help move them out of that red light of risk? What kind of information would help the audience consider this rate change to be a positive mood, something that they would accept? Can you tell us a couple of thoughts of like, what do you think changes their mind, and or maybe not changes their mind, right? But like helps them see better? What kind of information are you pulling from, Susie?
It's always important to have data. Data tells a story. Data is the truth. So you can't, like, the numbers don't lie. You want to make sure you're doing your predictions. So if we're trying to raise rates and grow loans, and we're trying to grow them maybe 2%, we can kind of do some analysis and say, if we raise the rates this much, we're predicting the needle's going to move over here. We're going to get an additional, 100 loans a month. And this is the rate they're going to come on board at. So we kind of I have to show the numbers. People want to see the data and the numbers, see those projections.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the market doing? So what's the market share look like? So we'd want to do an analysis of what our competitors are doing. How are they priced? And then looking at there's so many tools we can use. We can also look at and see who is getting the deals. So we can dive down and drill down that deep. We can see which credit unions or banks are getting most of the volume. So we can kind of look at that trend and then also see how they're priced. So we can use all these data points to really make a decision, make a data-driven decision.
Yeah, it reminds me of when we were buying a house or selling a house, and it's like, well, what should we price it at, right? Well, we need comps. Okay, we need to see what other houses in our neighborhood are selling for, and that gives more comfort to us to set it at that higher price. Is it sort of like that?
Yes, exactly. You're doing your research, you're doing market research, and you're thinking of all the areas.
Absolutely. So when you're speaking to this audience, Susie, and you start watching that mindset shift in the room, what are you seeing, like with your eyes or feeling, when you start noticing that the audience is moving away from the red light of risk? They're seeing you as more trustworthy, and that this is maybe a good idea, and they might want to go to that green light of saying, yes, go make the rate change. What's happening from your perspective on the stage that you can see and feel?
I think you can tell for the body language and eye contact. And it's really, I think, what I've learned over the years, because I've been, I don't do the rate changes anymore, but when I was doing them, presenting them for the last couple of years, I learned who wants to know what certain data points, who's going to have what questions.
Okay.
So then learning and knowing my audience and having to become more prepared each time I was getting more honed in on that and got better and better at that because I knew a certain person's going to ask this question. So I want to make sure I highlight that when I'm giving my presentation
Yes.
so that it's already
Yes.
covered. They don't have to ask that question. So just learning and knowing and it's preparing
Mhm.
better.
I love that. And I'm going to throw at our audience a quick strategy that Susie, it's the naming strategy. And so when you know someone in the audience is going to ask a question, or you just want to like wake up a person out there, use their name and say their name. And in your case, you could say something like, Carol, I know you're going to ask me about XYZ question, and I've got this really interesting tidbit that I was thinking about telling you specifically today. So here it is. And, you have to make that sound good and not like it could come across poorly if you say it in the wrong tone of voice, right? If it sounds in any way patronizing or it sets them up in the wrong light. But we have to be so careful with our words and really make sure to articulate that well. But that can bring a smile to her face and everybody else in the room when you do that well. So you don't want to do things like that, completely winging it necessarily, but it can be done and very valuably delivered. So yeah, that's fantastic. Well, Susie, what kinds of things, in your opinion, as an audience member, if you could just highlight for us, you are working with so many data-driven people. I mean, let's just be honest, right? In the banking industry, in the finance sector, people are wired with those analytical thinking brains. Where's the heart part in your business and in presentations? Is there a place for heart and story?
There is definitely, I think that's part of the credit union space is we always want to have that heart. That's part of our culture. And it's the heart and where that comes in is really, how does it affect our members? How is this decision going to have, what's the bottom line to our members? How's this going to improve their experience with us? How it's going to make it better for them? And every decision we do is based on our members. So
Yeah,
we have that's the heart we wear.
absolutely. And when you're presenting, do you bring in little customer stories ever? What kind of stuff do you do to help engage the heart of your audience?
Sometimes when appropriately, we'll bring in some member success stories. You want to bring it in and for something that we saw, we've created a certain loan product or a service product because these members kept coming to us with this need. We make sure that we are meeting that need and taking care of the members based on their feedback. Because we do listen to feedback. It's very important for us to have member engagement and we want to share their successes. And we do that all the time.
Yeah, because even though you're really heavy in the numbers, the things that you do for people are all about heart. It's like, I'm going to help you buy a home. I'm going to help you get a car. I'm going to help you transition out of I mean, these are huge life changes. And so the heart is there. And I think, well, I would imagine you tell me that in your presentations or those that your peers give, it's just maybe easy to stay locked into those numbers unless you can make that concerted effort to do a little storytelling. Is that
all of us? It's really important for us just like when you're talking about the projects we're working on or the things we're trying to achieve, we always bring in effort. We always bring in what's the member impact? How is this going to make their life easier? How is this going to improve everything? So we always want to everything gets projects get correlated back to that member experience.
Yeah, love that. Love that.
We love credit unions.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Susie, when you think about the next 12 months or so, and you look at your industry and things that are changing or evolving or not changing, not evolving, what are you seeing from your seat today?
I think one of the things that's really exciting, I think, in the last couple of years, and it's only going to get more and more involvement is all the AI technology we have. So really bringing AI into us. We're using AI for fraud detection. We're using AI for underwriting decisions. So with the AI tools we've had the last couple of years, we are able to buy deeper people that don't have established credit or very thin credit files. We can use alternative data and we're able to approve them for loans they might not have gotten elsewhere, and they're priced at a place that's affordable. So we're not gouging them with 20%. They're getting a fair price based on their risk, but then it's opening those doors for them and opening them to credit and then helping them with their products and guiding them along the way. So all the AI pieces really excite me. The fraud detection is so important too, because we're seeing such an increase in fraud.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not just our industry, it's everywhere. You're seeing it.
Yeah.
So that's something that's really exciting, is that using predictive analytics with our
Mhm.
members too, and seeing like what's the next best service or product that might be best for them. So they're not having to come to us. We're going to them saying, hey, I think you might want this tool, or you might want this check
Right.
or this CD product, or hey, have you seen our credit cards? Because we know we can give them a better rate, and it's going to be better service than if they go to Capital One or somewhere else.
Right, right. Well, the AI is interesting too, and that's like a perfect piece to add on. But in terms of red and green lights, I think with all of us as AI has come on the scene, AI itself is learning how to get us as consumers to the green light of go and trust AI, right? So the more that we use it, the more that we see it creating efficiencies in fraud detection, for example, the more comfortable we are with it, and the more we can see its value. And so those red and green lights can happen in our brains in a lot of ways. And AI is just one other example. So yeah, that's a great tool and a great way to use AI to save people from the heartache, right, of fraud and all
Or
that.
losing
I
money,
mean,
it's all
yeah,
those things that happen to you
yeah.
personally. It's gonna leave you not in a good position.
Yeah, yeah, that's really scary. Well, to tie back to the beginning of our conversation, Susie, and you said you loved this industry because of the way it was able to help you kind of bounce around to different, roles and departments. What are you, do you kind of suggest that to your team? You manage a team, right? Do you help them navigate where they might be well suited in a new place because of the way that they think or the gifts that they have? How do you take what you experienced and send it downward toward your team?
I think that's something I like to do naturally. It's kind of me giving back to all the other leaders that kind of saw that in me throughout my
Yeah.
career. They kind of, saw my drive, they saw my passion, they saw me wanting to ask more questions, learning more. So I give back, and I like to find, throughout my career, I found employees, teammates that I see those same skills. And
Yeah.
I kind of take them under my wings, and I mentor them and kind of do some career development and kind of guide them into what path they want to go into. And
Mhm.
where I'm at now, it's great because we have these gig roles. So employees can sign up for gig roles in different departments and work.
Okay.
There's
What is that, like a short term?
a short term, yes, it's like it could be a
Assignment?
3-month gig or a 6-month gig,
Okay.
where they're helping another department, and they're kind of doing that either a couple days a week or maybe a couple hours a day. It just depends on what the area is, but it gives them exposure to something that they might think they have an interest in, but they can
Great.
dive in deep and see if it is right path to
Yeah.
pursue that. So it's kind of like a job shadowing, but like before they make an
Yeah.
official move and there's an opening, we don't want them to jump into it and be like, oh, this is not for me.
Right. You're investing a lot in them to
Yeah, we
teach
want
them.
to give them the opportunity to see, like, yeah, I want to go back to school for this, or I want to learn more,
Yeah.
take some
Love that.
certifications. So we do that. We also just have a great mentoring program in our company. And just, when we have conversations with my managers and supervisors, are doing check-ins with their teams, and I kind of check and do spot check-ins of
Hmm.
what each employee wants. So I can kind of get them in different projects, or I can kind of expose them to different areas and get their name out there so they can know these
Yeah.
departments and just kind of boost them up. And then I'll meet with them one-on-one and kind of give them some different mentoring as well to kind of get them to where they want to go and push them a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. If you're listening and you're kind of early in your career, you want to find people like Susie who are going to help you, guide you, and feel energized by, developing you. And for those of you listening who are already doing that, just it's so important and such a gift as we grow in our careers to see where we can be of service to the generations coming into the industry and help them flourish, help them learn from our mistakes, and we all are going to make them anyway, but maybe there's a few shortcuts. So along that line, Susie, what's a piece of advice you might share with someone who's coming into the banking or credit union space that you either received or maybe wish that you had received when you were starting out?
Just good advice. It's okay to fail. Like if you make a mistake or fail, you fail forward. Like, what did you
Yeah,
learn from that? It's no one's perfect 100% of the time. It's just what you take and what are you going to learn from that, so you don't make those same mistakes again.
yeah, yeah.
It's a
Love
huge
that.
thing I learned in my career, that it's okay to do that and just own it and just call it out what it is, and encourage others just to jump back into it and go right back at it and try it again.
Yeah. dust your feet off and your jacket off and keep going. So everybody, did you hear that? It's okay to fail. I know we all know that in our brains, but
It's
when
okay
we
to fail.
fall, yeah, we like normally.
Let's not keep failing the same way, but make sure we learn the lessons and we make sure we're doing it differently next time. But something too that's really been important in my career is the connections. Like the connections you make are so important. And in the credit union world, it's a small industry, but I have connections with coworkers at other credit unions across the state, but also across the country I've met. And it's a great network where we share ideas, we bounce ideas off each other. Who do you use for this system? What are your thoughts on this? And it's just great to have that not only externally, but also internally in a credit union. I work with my peers, bounce ideas off of them. So connections is so important to make the connections because you're going to have them throughout your career and life. You don't know when someone can reach out to you. I had someone last year, a former employee at another credit union, reached out to me last year around this time, and he was looking for a job. He was, I worked with him at Canvas, and he was an underwriter that used to work for me. And I knew at that time I had an employee or a former employee here that was going to be retiring. And I was like, well, Joe, this is perfect. I will throw your name into that manager's, let her know that you'll be applying, and I can speak to your, your work ethic and who you are. And he got hired, and that's fantastic. And so it's just a small world like that where people still have your emails and your phone number. Just, he randomly reached out and wanted to see how I was doing. And I was like, I can help you. That's so great. That's such a winning feeling and win-win all around. So I love that. I love that. Last question, Susie. Can you share with our listeners and viewers anything on your radar right now, on your bookshelf at night, or in your ears for a podcast, something you'd recommend that's helped you grow or was just fun? What's happening for some of your leisure reading or listening? I like anything by Brene Brown is kind of my favorite go-to, like her podcasts or her books. I've been blessed to be able to see her in person and like listen to her lecture. She just blows my mind, and she's someone that inspires me, and she's got so much wisdom. So it's anything by hers, I would highly recommend any review. Yeah, she's fantastic. The phrase I just absolutely adore from her and borrow and credit her for, of course, is clear is kind. And that works for business environments, family relationships, children, clear is kind. And so that's a great adage that I've pulled from Brene as well. So she's just fantastic. Well, Susie, thank you so much. This was such a great time to talk with you and learn a little more about you and your industry and the red lights and the green lights that you've experienced. How can someone get a hold of you if they are interested in learning more about the credit union space or just want to say hello and connect? They can reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. Okay. Or if they want to reach out to you, you can give them my email contact as well. Yeah, they will see your name spelling correctly in the show notes. Last name, spell it for us. Heneman. Yep. And it might come up, come up as Susan in your LinkedIn? Yeah. Susan Heneman. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Susie. It was so good to be with you today. Thanks everybody for listening. And we are really excited to bring you another episode soon on Red Light, Green Light. Our book is coming out soon, and we're excited to share more about the incredible model that's changing the way people persuade with confidence all around the world. Have a great day. Bye-bye.